There are three Parkinson's breakthroughs happening right now that honestly made me stop and go, wait a minute. Because for years, most of us have heard the same thing: manage the symptoms, adjust the medication, stay active, and try not to lose your mind while your pill timer becomes the boss of your entire life. Now, don't get me wrong, all of that matters. But today's episode is different. Today I'm talking about three things researchers are working on that could change how Parkinson's is detected, how medication is delivered, and how early we might be able to spot this disease before it fully shows itself. One involves something most of us have used since we were kids and probably sitting in three different junk drawers right now. Another one could one day change the medication clock completely. And the last one comes from a place so weird, I'm not even saying it out loud yet because you're going to think I finally lost it. And stick around to the very end because the last breakthrough might be the strangest Parkinson's screening idea I've ever heard. And if you've been watching this channel for more than 5 minutes, you know what time it is. It's Who Knew Week. Who knew?
Welcome to Living with Parkinson's. The good, the bad, and the reality. Real talk, real life, real community with Bryce Perry. Let's begin.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to the broadcast. I'm Bryce, and I was diagnosed with Parkinson's at the age of 40, and I've been living with it now for over 15 years. Once a month, we take real Parkinson's research, weird science, new discoveries, and things most of us have never heard in a neurologist's office, and we break them down into normal human language. And when you hear them, you're going to say, who knew, right? Now, a quick honesty before we start. I'm not here to sell miracle cures. Some of the research is early, some of it needs bigger studies, and some of it is not ready for your doctor's office yet. But it matters because it shows researchers are still looking, still building, and still asking better questions. So today I've got three breakthroughs. One surprised me, one gave me hope, and one made me say, science, are you okay? Now, track which one surprises you the most because I want to hear it in the comments at the end. And trust me, number three is so ridiculous, like so ridiculous in the best possible way. Okay, let's get into breakthrough number one. And that starts with something that almost everybody has done and everybody does on a daily basis. And that is writing. Yeah, signing your name, writing a grocery list, filling out a form at the doctor's office, or trying to write a birthday card and realize your hand has decided it wants to create abstract art instead. If you have Parkinson's, you know handwriting can change. For some people, the writing gets smaller. For others, it gets shakier. And for some people, it starts off okay and then slowly turns into what looks like a ransom note written by a tired squirrel. And the frustrating part is handwriting, it changes can happen very quietly. They can happen before big symptoms come or before diagnosis. Before somebody finally says, this might be Parkinson's. For years, doctors have looked at handwriting as one of the clues. Okay, they might ask you to draw a spiral. Doctors might ask you to write a sentence. And what they're looking for is like tremor and slowness and reduced size and changes in the rhythm. But here's the problem. A lot of that depends on the person looking at it. It depends on training, on experience, on judgment. And sometimes whether the doctor is having a good day, a bad day, or has already seen 47 people, and it's not even lunchtime. But now researchers are asking a different question. What if the writing itself could talk? What if the pen could feel what your hand was doing? What if the pen could detect tiny changes that the human eyes miss? That is where the first breakthrough comes in. Researchers developed a special smart pen, a 3D printed magnetic smart pen. And I know, it already sounds like something that you would buy from that guy that runs that little kiosk in the mall who sells the phone cases and somehow fixes watches. But this is real research. The pen has a soft tip with a magnetic material inside. And as the person writes or draws, the pressure and movement create signals. And those signals can be analyzed by machine learning. So instead of just saying your handwriting looks smaller, the system can actually measure those tiny movement patterns. It measures pressure and speed and tremor and control and subtle changes in how the hand moves. And in early testing, this pen was able to tell the difference between people with Parkinson's and people without Parkinson's. Are you ready for this? With about a 96% accuracy. Wow. Now, before we all run down the street yelling, the pen solved Parkinson's, let's be honest. It's a small pilot study, very small, and it needs much bigger testing. It needs more people, more ages, more types of Parkinson's, more real world situations. Because early research, it's kind of like that first pancake. It might look promising, but you don't build the whole restaurant on it yet. But still, a pen, a pen. Imagine, who knew? A pen. Not $1 million scanner, not a gigantic machine that looks like it belongs in a spaceship, and not a test that requires a person to travel 3 hours, park 15 blocks away, and then sit in a waiting room where the magazines are older than their diagnosis. A pen. That's what makes it so interesting. Because if something like this works in large studies, it could become a very low cost screening tool. Matter of fact, they think that they might be able to make this pen for less than $5. It could help people in rural areas. It could help people who don't have access to movement disorder specialists. It could help detect patterns early. It might even help track changes over time. Imagine going to the doctor and instead of saying, I feel like my writing is worse, you actually could have data. Not a vibe, not a guess, but data. Because one of the hardest parts of Parkinson's is that we often know something is changing before we can prove it. We feel it, we live it. But when we get into that appointment and suddenly we're trying to explain 6 months of symptoms in a 12-minute appointment while sitting on crinkly paper, yeah. And of course, you know what? That's always the day that we move better anyway and we look totally fine. Because Parkinson's has this weird sense of humor and apparently it loves to gaslight us, doesn't it? But a smart pen can capture something more objective, something measurable, something that says there's a pattern here. And that's why this matters. Not because it's ready tomorrow, not because it replaces neurologists, but because it shows that Parkinson's detection may not always have to depend on expensive tools or late stage symptoms. It might come from something simple, something familiar, something you already know how to use. Who knew? Who knew a simple pen might one day help detect Parkinson's? A pen, I still can't get over that. You know, some of us spend years trying to get answers, and science is over here saying, have you tried writing your name? Right? That is a breakthrough. That's breakthrough number one. But if you're ready, here is number two. And this is for everyone whose life is ruled by a medication clock. And if you know, you know. How about a me too in the comments for that? And we'll only know, right? You know that alarm goes off, you take the pills. You wait. You wonder if they're kicking in. You wonder if breakfast is going to mess with it. You wonder if protein is about to jump out from behind a bush and tackle your levodopa. Then you get a window, maybe. And then the window starts closing. And you start doing the math again. When did I take my last dose? When's the next one? Can I go now? Can I eat now? Can I make it through this appointment? Can I get through this family dinner without turning into a statue halfway through the mashed potatoes? And honestly, some days Parkinson's feels less like a disease and more like a very demanding part-time job where the manager is a pill bottle. You know, for a lot of people, medication timing is not just inconvenient. It shapes the day, it shapes travel, it shapes your sleep, meals, social plans. It shapes whether you say yes or no before you even know if you want to go. And that's why the second breakthrough caught my attention. Because researchers are working on a way to deliver levodopa and carbidopa differently. Not as another pill you take multiple times a day. Not one more alarm, not one more thing to remember, but a long-acting injectable gel. The idea is that the medication is injected under your skin and into a muscle, where it forms into a small biodegradable implant. And then that implant slowly reduces levodopa and carbidopa over about 7 days. 7 days, not 7 hours, not 7 hours, 7 days. Now again, let's put the brakes on, just for a second. It's early, but it's not something you can ask your doctor about next week. Human trials still need to happen. Safety and effectiveness still need to be proven in people. But the idea is huge because most of us are used to Parkinson's medication being peaks and valleys. You take the dose, it rises, it works, it fades. And then your body starts sending you these little warning messages. A little bit more stiffness, a little bit more slowness, a little bit more tremor. A little bit more like, why does my left side suddenly feel like it belongs to a retired pirate? You know, that up and down cycle, it's exhausting. It's exhausting physically, mentally, and it's exhausting for care partners too. Because the medication clock doesn't just live in the person with Parkinson's. It lives in the house, in the car, in the purse, in the partner's brain. It lives in every plan, every outing. So the very idea of a weekly delivery system is not just about convenience, it's about freedom. It's about mental space. It's about not having your whole day sliced into medical size pieces, living your life in 3 hour blocks or 4 hour blocks. I'll tell you personally, Levodopa has been a lifesaver for me. And I'm not anti medication. I'm not one of those people who says just breathe lavender into a sock and your dopamine will return. Not me. Medication matters. And for me, Levodopa works. It's helped me live. It's helped me function. It's helped me keep showing up. But the management of it can become, it's a full-blown circus. And some days I'm not the ringmaster. Most days I'm not. I'm the guy getting shot out of the cannon, wondering if he's packed a parachute. So when I see researchers working on better delivery, steadier delivery, and less daily burden, man, do I pay attention. Because the future of Parkinson's treatment may not only be about new drugs, it may also be about better ways to get the drugs we already have in the body. And that matters because levodopa is the gold standard. The problem is not that the levodopa doesn't matter. The problem is that Parkinson's makes us chase it all day long. So imagine a future where instead of chasing the medication clock, medication's delivered steadily in the background. Imagine not planning every single thing around the next dose. Imagine a care partner not having to quietly monitor whether the person they love is wearing off. Imagine going out for the afternoon without a medication schedule and sitting in the back seat like an unpaid chaperone. That one feels big. Not because it's here yet, but because someone is building toward that kind of day. Who knew that one day Parkinson's treatment might move toward a weekly medication delivery system instead of multiple daily pills or a pump? Now, that's not tomorrow, but it's something that's being worked on. And for this community, that matters. All right, there you go. Who knew? That was number 2. Now, quick pause before the final breakthrough. If this episode is giving you even a little bit of hope, hit that like button, not for me, but do it because someone else with Parkinson's is sitting at home thinking nothing new is happening. And they need to see this. Your one click helps YouTube push this video to the next person who needs a little proof that research is still moving. And if you're new here, come on, let's subscribe because every third week of the month we do this Who Knew series. This is the exact kind of stuff we dig into. Real research, real life, real talk, and occasionally, apparently, sometimes things get a little weird, which brings me to number 3. The last breakthrough is the one that I teased you about at the beginning. And I'm going to say this slowly because even now it sounds ridiculous coming out of my mouth. Ready for this? Researchers are looking at earwax. Yeah, earwax. We have reached the earwax portion of the Parkinson's program. This is where my grade 8 science teacher would either be very proud or deeply concerned. But stay with me because this is actually really fascinating. Researchers have found that earwax may contain chemical signals that are different in people with Parkinson's. More specifically, they looked at this volatile organic compounds, which is like a fancy way of saying tiny chemical substances that can create a scent profile, a smell signature. And they use artificial intelligence to analyze the chemical pattern. So basically, they're training AI to smell Parkinson's from earwax. I know, I get it, I know. There's just no normal way to say that sentence. Imagine explaining this to somebody at Thanksgiving dinner, like, what did you learn this week, Bryce? Well, Aunt Linda, apparently AI is sniffing earwax for Parkinson's. And then everyone quietly passes the stuffing and wonders if I need a nap or if it's time for me to go. But the science is real. In early testing, this AI-based system was able to distinguish people with Parkinson's from people without Parkinson's. You ready for this? With a 94% accuracy. What? Who knew? Who knew? Again, it's early. More research is needed. And it's not going to be something to run to your doctor about tomorrow morning. And actually, you know what? Please do not walk into the clinic with a Q-tip in a sandwich bag saying, Bryce said that you can smell my diagnosis. And, right? Please don't ask your doctor to smell your earwax. And please do not put that on me. Don't make me the earwax guy at your doctor's office, please. But also 94% is early testing, but it's enough to make people pay attention. And here's why this matters. Parkinson's is often diagnosed late. By the time the symptoms are obvious enough to get a diagnosis, a lot has already happened in the body and in the brain. This is one of those cruel parts of this disease. It's working before you know it's working. It's changing things before anybody even gives it a name. And early detection matters because if we can detect Parkinson's early, then one day we may be able to intervene earlier, treat earlier, track earlier, plan earlier, and maybe eventually change the course earlier. That's the dream. Now, what makes this earwax idea so wild is that it could potentially be cheap, non invasive, and super easy to collect. No giant machines, no needles, no complicated procedure, just a sample, a chemical pattern, an AI system reading the signal. And I know it sounds bizarre, but sometimes science is bizarre before it's normal. Think about it. At one point, people probably thought scanning your brain with a giant magnet sounded insane. At some point, people probably thought checking your blood sugar at home sounded too futuristic. At one point, people thought a watch that tracked your heart rate, sleep, steps, and stress sounded like something from a spy movie. Now, half of us wear one, and we still ignore its advice. Time to stand. No, no thank you, tiny wrist boss. No thank you. I have Parkinson's. I'll stand when my legs finish negotiating with gravity. The point is, strange ideas can become normal if science holds up. Now, this one is strange, but it also might be important because Parkinson's leaves clues. We know that. I'm always saying that. It leaves clues in movement, in handwriting, in sleep, in smell, in skin, in chemistry, and maybe, apparently now, in earwax. Who knew? One of the strangest clues to Parkinson's might come from earwax. Not me, but now we know. All right, before we close, I want to bring in Carmen's Care Partner Corner. Here's what Carmen wrote for me to read to you today. From a care partner's point of view, the breakthrough that hit me the most was the weekly injection ideas. Because people talk about medication schedules like they only belong to the person who's taking the pills. But care partners carry that clock too. We notice when the meds are wearing off. We watch timing around meals. We help pack the pills. We remind without trying to nag. And we think that, whether an outing is going to work based on whether the medication window falls. And sometimes we do all of this quietly because we don't want our person to feel watched or managed. So when I hear about research that could one day make medication deliver steadier and less demanding, I don't just hear about convenience. I hear breathing room. I hear more freedom. And I hear a day where maybe we aren't both planning around the next dose. The day's not here yet, but knowing someone's working on it means something. To care partners watching right now, you are allowed to want easier. You really are. It doesn't mean that you love your person less. It means you're human. And I love that because that is the part people don't always see. A breakthrough is not just science on paper. It is what science could give back to real people. Time, energy, confidence, and a little less complicated day. Wow. Thank you, Carmen. So there you go. 3 Parkinson's breakthroughs happening right now. A smart pen that could one day help detect Parkinson's through handwriting patterns. A weekly injection concept that could one day change the medication clock. And an AI system looking at earwax because apparently Parkinson's research has entered its weird uncle era. But honestly, I love it because every one of these says the same thing. People are looking. People are still asking better questions. And people are still trying to find Parkinson's earlier, treat it better, and make daily life less exhausting. And that matters. Now, I want to hear from you. Which one surprised you the most? The pen, the weekly injection, or the earwax? Drop it in the comments and tell me. And if you know somebody who needs to hear that Parkinson's research is still moving, share this with them. Because hope is sometimes something we borrow from each other until we can feel it ourselves. All right, you made it this far. Here is your Bryce-ism of the episode. With Parkinson's, hope doesn't always come from a breakthrough headline. Sometimes it comes from earwax. Because apparently science looked everywhere else and then finally said, fine, let's go check all the weird stuff. All right. Well, there you go. Until next time, I want you to keep showing up. I want you to keep being real. And I want you to keep doing life today. And I'll see you in the next episode for part 2 of Who Knew. It is a doozy. I love you. We'll see you next episode.